Welcome back to The Morning Blend. Our next guest says the idea for her book came to her all at once and she immediately put it into action. She bought a domain and started writing that very same night. That vision is now in print. It is called The Fringe Hours, Making Time for Yourself.
We're so excited to welcome author Jessica Turner to The Morning Blend and chat on the yellow couch about ways that women can find time to do it all. Work, raise kids, tend to their marriage, and make time for themselves. And in just a bit, we're going to talk to a local mom who's read Jessica's book and what she thinks. But first, we're going to chat with you about what it's about and all the details, how we can do this for ourselves. Good to have you here.
Thanks so much for having me.
Great to meet you.
Good to meet you
And
too.
you have 3 kids. We were just chatting. In fact, a newborn baby. So how old are they?
Yeah, they're 9 weeks is my little boy Ezra, and then I have a 3.5-year-old girl named Adeline and a 6-year-old boy named Elias.
It's busy.
So it is very busy. It's very busy. I live in Nashville, but my family's all here in Wisconsin. So I brought the baby up so that they could meet him, and I'm happy to be here.
It's cute.
With all that going on, I can't imagine you have a lot of fringe hours. So where did your original research start, and how did that lead you to think, well, I can find time for myself?
Yeah. So I've always actually been pretty good about making time for myself. I work full time, and so I get up early in the morning and have that time for myself then. But because I write and I've got a blog and I'm working, and so people are always asking, how are you doing it all? How are you doing it all? And really the answer was the fringe hours, these little pockets of time throughout the day that I was being really intentional about making that time for myself. And so I wrote the book to kind of give that permission slip for other women.
I've got to say, because it reminds me of that saying that if you want to get something done, ask the busiest person you know.
Right.
Because you're so used to managing those little in-between hours that you literally just get things done, where if you've got all this time, you tend to seem less productive. Do you think that's true?
You know, I think that's maybe true for my story. I don't know if that is true for everyone, but I definitely think that if you're intentional about how you're spending your time, and once you recognize, oh, I've got 15 minutes here or 30 minutes here, you know, on average we wait 45 to 60 minutes a day. And what are we doing when we're waiting, right? We're looking at our iPhones, scrolling through Facebook, where you can be really much more intentional with that time and read a book that you've been wanting to read, or do some knitting, or, you know, do something that you're passionate about. And so the Fringe Hours really teaches women how to find that time and then maximize it for themselves.
You have some interesting research, some statistics about how much time people are actually taking for themselves, who's encouraging us as busy moms to take time for ourselves, and then at what times during the day we're actually finding time to spend a little time doing something for ourselves.
Right.
What stands out for you?
Yeah, I didn't want the Fringe Hours to be just my story, and so I surveyed 2,000 women about how they spend their time, what they're passionate about, what their struggles are. Mornings were a big one. Women who woke up before their kids or before they had to get to work and made that time for themselves. I think really kind of set the day to be happier and more productive and just feeling more balanced.
What did they do with that time? Was that a workout time? Was it just a get caught up time?
I think it's whatever they were passionate about. So for me, I do writing during that time. I do reading. I've been known to scrapbook at 5 in the morning. So really kind of whatever, you know, I'm feeling that morning, but doing something before the kids are hollering and I'm needing to get off to the office.
A lot of moms are going to say, I'm tired.
Yes. And so I'm tired too, right? I've got 3 kids, but you know, you've got to make yourself a priority. It's not selfish to say that you matter and to say that your passions matter. And so I think starting small, even just waking up 15 minutes before the sounds of the cries, really can make a big difference.
What else of that research stood out? You were kind of going on.
The research, it really changed the trajectory of the book, because I thought it was just going to be how to find the time. But after doing the research, feelings of guilt and comparison and feeling like you had to have perfect balance before you could make time really were brought to the surface. And so I addressed those emotions and feelings and how to overcome those feelings so that you will make time for yourself.
And that's part of giving yourself permission.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You've got to be okay with it. And sometimes, like you mentioned, having people speak into your life. My husband's really good about saying, you've really been doing a lot. You need a little break. Why don't you go take a couple hours and do something for yourself? And so sometimes having that accountability can really make all the difference.
But also don't wait until someone else gives you permission.
Absolutely.
Because you have to kind of give it to yourself. And especially like in the afternoon, if I feel like I need to take a nap, I've just started saying to my kids, if I'm going to, I'll tell them I'm going to take a nap, you know, 20 minutes, half an hour, but don't bother me while I'm napping, and feeling okay with that, because otherwise you'll be sleeping and my kids will just walk up to me and be like, oh, hey mom, And I'll be like, really? Like, you can't tell my eyes
I need
shut?
this time, right? And my family's really good about knowing in the morning that that's my time. And so if they wake up early, like mommy's doing something right now, mommy's reading right now, you know, go and sit and play and do something quiet for yourself. So managing those expectations is absolutely really important. And being comfortable with letting it go. You know, like we do not need to have the perfect house and the perfect life. And so being comfortable with saying, you know what, good enough is good enough.
Because there'll always be chores to do.
There will always be chores. There will always be chores. And we're modeling as moms. The book isn't just for mom, but as a mom myself, you know, I think about what I'm modeling for my children. And I want to model positive, healthy lifestyle that includes taking care of myself. I don't want my daughter to grow up and think that she needs to be burned out and exhausted because she's constantly doing chores and trying to run a house and not taking time for herself.
Yeah, that balance is a good practice to pay forward to teach. Okay, well, we're going to be joined with a mom in a little bit, so after the break.
Yep, a working mom joins us to talk about this great book, The Fringe Hours. We're going to ask her how she would spend her extra time if she had it. We'll be right back with more of that. Stay with us. To the Morning Blend, we are back with the author of The Fringe Hours, a guide and permission slip for women to make time for their passions and for themselves.
Jessica Turner has agreed to stick around, and we're joined now by a working mom who says this book really speaks to her. It's Katie Mayota. She's a single mom to an almost 3-year-old. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Hi, ladies.
Thanks for being here. So you read the book.
Yes.
And this is something that you felt spoke to you how?
Well, it's really interesting because I'm in the process of going through a divorce, and so I find time now that I have more fringe hours than I actually have in the past. And my struggle is a little bit more, one part of your book talks about making that list of what you would do with that time, and that's where I kind of am right now. Discovering what I would do and what I would like to do during those fringe hours.
What kinds of things have you put on your list that you haven't maybe tended to or given yourself permission to do in the past?
Writing is one of them, and then physical health for me. So yoga, I did a bar class last night, but that was something that was really missing in my life.
Well, you have just one. You have a son who's 2.5, but it's a very busy age, and it can be very physically demanding, kind of exhausting. I think. Plus, you work as well. Do you kind of look at other moms and sometimes wonder how are they doing it? And they maybe look happy, and you think, I want to be like that. Do you spend time thinking about that?
So much time thinking about that. It can be really hard. And that's one part that really spoke to me is that comparison of other women and being kind to yourself and supportive to other women. I think once you find that you're lifting up the women that you see in your life and celebrating them, like you mentioned, that actually comes back upon yourself, and it's easier to do it for you and lift yourself up and be kinder to yourself in those moments.
Well, and social media can be a really big challenge when it comes to comparison, right? Because we're seeing these Instagrams of everyone's perfect little lives and these little 4x4 squares instead of, you know, the dirty dishes that you don't see in the picture, right? And so I challenge women that if social media is one area where comparison is breeding, you know, turn it off. Take the app off your phone. Unfollow those people that, you know, are breeding that feeling if you can't turn that comparison on its head to celebration.
Well, and I feel, I'm not a parent, but I feel like just what I've seen sometimes in the media and between other women is that oftentimes one of the biggest bullies right now are other mothers, putting pressures or ways of raising or ideals on other parenting, you know, for other women. Is there a certain age that you found as you surveyed these women too, when they kind of take back their own strength as a parent? Is it this
you know,
2, 3, 8-year-old?
I think it's really universal. I think I've had people say, you know, they read the book and they say, oh, it only gets harder when the kids get older. You know, I think that the challenges just change, but universally we struggle with making time for ourselves. And so it's navigating, you know, with you going through your divorce, life looks different, but when you've got your son and you're a single mom, it's maybe more challenging to make that time. And so how are you still able to be intentional during all of those different seasons?
Well, and how can someone with young kids like that, I mean, it's a little easier for me to be intentional because I can say to my teenager or my other 2 kids who are 10 and 12, hey guys, you need to go do something. I'm going to chat with a friend, or I'm going to do this. But how can someone like Katie get time for herself when she has a 2.5-year-old?
Right. Well, I think the early morning hours before the little boy wakes up is a big opportunity, right? When they're sleeping is kind of that key moment. With my kids, if I get all 3 napping at one time, I promise I'm not doing laundry during that time, right? Like, I can do laundry when they're awake, right? And so it's recognizing, okay, when does it make sense for me to do this for me versus doing another activity that I can do when the child is awake? You know, I think that's a great opportunity.
Well, and I saw you even made a note about, okay, so let's say it's their lunchtime. Make lunch and then sit close to them or near them and read your magazine or your book.
Right.
You know, you don't have to always be engaged.
And you know, it's really good to model for our kids that we're doing things that we love. You know, I think it's good for my kids to see me reading a book, right? That I'm not only doing that when they're sleeping and they don't know that mommy likes to read too, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that that's not a bad thing to say, you know what, I need a little time to do this, you know.
You brought up a great point during the break that was in your information about women generally going to bed around 10 o'clock, but you said kids often go to bed at 8, so you've got these extra hours in there.
Right, and so how are you choosing to use them? You know, are you choosing to do a whole bunch of chores? Are you choosing to watch television? Or are you doing something that really you're passionate about and fills you up? I'm a big advocate of neglecting the chores every now and then if that's what I need to do to make time for myself.
If, you know, for you and finding time, what you said was interesting to me. So one challenge is finding the time, but the other part of that challenge is, okay, if I get the time, and now you maybe have more time if you're splitting parenting roles, but what is it I want to intentionally do with that time? Kind of like reconnecting with something you're really interested or passionate about, right?
Absolutely. And I think planning too is a big part of that. One of my favorite parts of the book is how you talk about having that book with you. And so when you have those free moments, you've got 5 minutes, read your few pages. But having that life, that Fringe time in the past kind of few years, and now I have all of it, that's definitely been a struggle. So thinking about that and just engaging in new things, and what I've started doing is taking those little pockets of time and they're opening up new things for me and going, wow, I remember how much I love to read, and I have this book every 5 minutes, and now when I have those 2 hours at nighttime, I'm going to read even more. And so that's how it's helping reintroduce that into my life.
That's so great.
Yeah, that's cool.
I like the concept too, because there's so much of it of, you know, I think as parents you tend to be so selfless that you forget that taking that time and that permission to give to yourself is going to make you a better parent, because you yourself are going to be more balanced. I think in theory a lot of people are like, great idea, but in practice it becomes harder.
Well, and I like what you said too. Tell your husband or your friend or your mom, maybe say to them, I need to take better care of myself. Will you help me make time each week?
Right.
A kind of assigning responsibility to the other important person in your life, whether it's a friend or a spouse. And then also, I love this, post a note somewhere, visibly reminding yourself, I'm worth it, I matter, I'm valuable, I deserve this time. Because I think the guilt thing is huge.
It is huge. And it's something that even I would say myself, who's pretty good at making time for myself, I still feel guilty. Like it's a constant cycle, you know, and I think that the media impacts it. I think just seeing Pinterest can impact it, you know, and so I think having a sign that says, I matter, I'm worth it, this is important, scheduling it out, having an advocate in your life who's advocating for you, that it's not just yourself, even if it's just a friend who's checking in with you or meeting somebody and doing something together can make a huge difference.
Yeah. You mentioned the list. Is there any other thing that you've put into practice from reading the book that's really helped you?
Just what we were talking about, those notes. I have a set of chalkboards in my house where I've got the schedule and the grocery list and things I need, and then just a blank one where I put little motivational notes and remind me that when I do something well too, like Frank was in a better mood because I gave him a task while I made dinner and it wasn't a yelling moment. You know, so having those visual notes is so helpful.
Good for you.
Good for you.
Yeah, I think
amazing.
I bet it's like cool for you to meet someone who's read your
really
book
is.
and it's like impacted their life.
Yeah, it's really amazing. So thank you for taking the time to read it.
Thanks for writing it.
That's so cute. I love it. See, we're changing lives here on the Morning Blend.
Every day.
Here are some websites you can check out to find out more about this wonderful book. It's The Fringe Hours. It's written by Jessica Turner. There are 2 sites, themomcreative.com, or you can find out more by going to fringehours.com as well. Thanks, you guys,
ladies.
so much.
you.
It was really
Thank you.
fun. I appreciate
Thanks.
it.